Selections from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, the teacher of spirituality. Section 1. Every soul is destined to be perfect, and every being in the end will attain to that state. Whatever we are now is a result of whatever we have been or thought in the past, and whatever we shall be in the future will be the result of what we do or think now. But this does not preclude our receiving help from outside. The possibilities of the soul are always quickened by some help from outside, so much so that in the vast majority of cases in the world, help from outside is at most absolutely necessary. Quickening influence comes from outside, and that works upon our own potentialities, and then the growth begins. Spiritual life comes, and man becomes holy and perfect in the end. This quickening impulse, which comes from outside, cannot be received from books. The soul can receive impulse only from another soul and from nothing else. We may study books all our lives. We may become very intellectual, but in the end, we find we have not developed at all spiritually. It does not follow that a higher order of intellectual development always shows an equivalent development of the spiritual side of man. On the other hand, we find cases almost every day where the intellect has become very highly developed at the expense of the spirit. Now, in the intellectual development, we can get much help from books, but in spiritual development, almost nothing. In studying books, sometimes we are deluded into thinking that we are being spiritually helped. But if we analyze ourselves, we shall find that only our intellect has been helped, and not the spirit. That is the reason why almost every one of us can speak most wonderfully on spiritual subjects. But when the time of action comes, we find ourselves so woefully deficient. It is because books cannot give us that impulse from outside. To quicken the spirit, that impulse must come from another soul. That soul from which this impulse comes is called the Guru, the teacher, and the soul to which the impulse is conveyed is called the disciple, the student. In order to convey this impulse in the first place, the soul from which it comes must possess the power of transmitting it, as it were, to another, and in the second place, the object to which it is transmitted must be fit to receive it. The seed must be a living seed, and the field must be ready ploughed. And when both these conditions are fulfilled, a wonderful growth of religion takes place. The speaker of religion must be wonderful, so must the hearer be. And when both of these are really wonderful, extraordinary, then alone will splendid spiritual growth come, not otherwise. These are the real teachers, and these are the real students. Besides these, the others are playing with spirituality, just having a little intellectual struggle, just satisfying a little curiosity, but are standing only on the outward fringe of the horizon of religion. There is some value in that. Real thirst for religion may thus be awakened, all comes in course of time. It is mysterious law of nature that as soon as the field is ready, the seed must come. As soon as the soul wants religion, the transmitter of religious force must come. The seeking sinner meeteth the seeking Saviour. When the power that attracts in the receiving soul is full and ripe, the power which answers to that attraction must come. But there are great dangers in the way. There is the danger to the receiving soul of mistaking its momentary emotion for real religious earning. We find that in ourselves. Many times in our life, somebody dies whom we loved, we receive a blow. For a moment, we think that this world is slipping between our fingers and that we want something higher. and that we are going to be religious. In a few days, that wave passes away and we are left stranded where we are. We oftentimes mistake such impulse for real thirst after religion. But so long as these momentary emotions are thus mistaken, that continuous real want of the soul will not come, and we shall not find the transmitter. When we complain that we have not got the truth and that we want it so much, instead of complaining, our first duty ought to be to look into our own souls and find whether we really want it. In the vast majority of cases, we shall find that we are not fit. We do not want. There was no thirst after the spiritual. There are still more difficulties for the transmitter. There are many who, though immersed in ignorance, yet in the pride of their hearts, think they know everything, and not only do not stop there, but offer to take others on their shoulders, and thus, the blind leading the blind, they both fall into the ditch. The world is full of these. Everyone wants to be a teacher. Every beggar wants to make a gift of $1 million. Just as the latter is ridiculous, so are these teachers. How are we to know a teacher then? In the first place, the sun requires no torch to make it visible. We do not light a candle to see the sun. When the sun rises, we instinctively become aware of its rising, and when a teacher of men comes to help us, the soul will instinctively know that it has found the truth. Truth stands on its own evidences. It does not require any other testimony to attest it. It is self effulgent. It penetrates into inmost recesses of our nature, and the whole universe stands up and says, "This is truth." These are the very great teachers, but we can get help from the lesser ones also. And as we ourselves are not always sufficiently intuitive to be certain of our judgment of the man from whom we receive, there ought to be certain test. There are certain conditions necessary in the taught and also in the teacher. The conditions necessary in the taught are purity, a real thirst after knowledge, and perseverance. No impure soul can be religious. That is one great condition. Purity in every way is absolutely necessary. The other condition is a real thirst after knowledge. Who wants? That is the question. We get whatever we want. That is an old law. He who wants gets. To want religion is a very difficult thing, not so easy as we generally think. Then we always forget that religion does not consist in hearing talks or in reading books, but it is a continuous struggle, a grappling with our own nature, a continuous fight till the victory is achieved. It is not a question of 1 or 2 days, of years, or of lives, but it may be hundreds of lifetimes, and you must be ready for that. It may come immediately, or it may not come in hundreds of lifetimes, and we must be ready for that. The student who sets out with such a spirit finds success. In the teacher, we must first see that he knows the secret of the scriptures. The whole world reads scriptures, Bibles, Vedas, Qurans, and others, but they are only words, external arrangements, syntax, the etymology, the philology, the dry bones of religion. The teacher may be able to find what is the age of any book, but words are only the external forms in which things come. Those who deal too much in words and let the mind run always in the force of words lose the spirit. So, the teacher must be able to know the spirit of the scriptures. The network of words is like a huge forest in which the human mind loses itself and finds no way out. The various methods of joining words, the various methods of speaking a beautiful language, the various methods of explaining the dicta of the scriptures are only for the enjoyment of the learned. They do not attain perfection. They are simply desirous to show their learning, so that the world may praise them and see that they are learned men. You will find that no one of the great teachers of the world went into these various explanations of text. On their part, there is no attempt at text torturing, no saying this word means this, and this is the philological connection between this and that word. You study all the great teachers the world has produced, and you will see that no one of them goes that way. Yet they taught, while others who have nothing to teach will take up a word and write a 3 volume book on its origin and use. As my master used to say, what would you think of men who went into a mango orchard and busied themselves into counting the leaves and examining the colors of the leaves, the size of the twigs, the number of branches, and so forth, while only one of them had the sense to begin to eat the mangoes? So leave this counting of leaves and twigs and this note taking to others. That work has its own value in its proper place, but not here, in the spiritual realm. Men never become spiritual through such work. You have never once seen a strong spiritual man among these leaf counters. Religion is the highest aim of man, the highest glory, but it does not require leaf counting. If you want to be a Christian, it is not necessary to know whether Christ was born in Jerusalem or Bethlehem, or just the exact date on which he pronounced the Sermon on the Mount. You only require to feel the Sermon on the Mount. It is not necessary to read 2000 words on where it was delivered. All that is for the enjoyment of the learned. Let them have it. Say amen to that. Let us eat the mangoes. The second condition necessary in the teacher is that he must be sinless. The question was once asked me in England by a friend. Why should we look to the personality of a teacher? We have only to judge of what he says and take that up. Not so. If a man wants to teach me something of dynamics or chemistry or any other physical science, he may be of any character. He can still teach dynamics or any other science. For the knowledge that the physical sciences require is simply intellectual and depends on intellectual strength. A man can have in such a case a gigantic intellectual power without the least development of his soul. But in the spiritual sciences, it is impossible from first to last that there can be any spiritual light in that soul which is impure. What can such a soul teach? It knows nothing. Spiritual truth is purity. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. In that one sentence is the gist of all religions. If you have learnt that all that has been said in the past and all that it is possible to say in the future, you have known. You need not look into anything else, for you have all that is necessary in that one sentence. It could save the world where all the other scriptures lost. A vision of God, glimpse of the beyond, never comes until the soul is pure. Therefore, in the teacher of spirituality, purity is the one thing indispensable. We must see first what he is and then what he says. Not so with intellectual teachers. There we care more for what he says than what he is. With the teacher of religion, we must first and foremost see what he is, and then alone comes the value of the words, because he is the transmitter. What will he transmit if he has not that spiritual power in him? To give a simile, if this heater here is hot, it can convey heat vibrations, but if not, it is impossible to do so. Even so is the case with the mental vibrations of the religious teacher which he conveys to the mind of the taught. It is a question of transference and not of stimulating only our intellectual faculties. Some power, real and tangible, goes out from the teacher and begins to grow in the mind of the taught. Therefore, the necessary condition is that the teacher must be true. The third condition is motive. We should see that he does not teach with any ulterior motive for name or fame or anything else, but simply for love, pure love for you. When spiritual forces are transmitted from the teacher to the taught, they can only be conveyed through the medium of love. There is no other medium that can convey them. Any other motive, such as gain or name, would immediately destroy the conveying medium. Therefore, all must be done through love. One who has known God can alone be a teacher. When you see that in the teacher these conditions are fulfilled, you are safe. If they are not fulfilled, it is unwise to accept him. There is a great risk if we cannot convey goodness, of his conveying wickedness sometimes. This must be guarded against. Therefore, it naturally follows that we cannot be taught by anybody and everybody.